Hello everyone, welcome back to coderinboots. In this video, we are going to discuss about provisioning AWS services using Gitlab pipeline. Okay, so when someone hears about this topic, people will ask why. Some people may at least think. So we have like very nice console in AWS. It has a very nice web interface in the AWS. Then why we need to provision these services using programs? Okay, so there are various ways to provision AWS services. Okay, it's not just AWS services, cloud services, like it could be AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, DigitalOcean. So all these cloud service providers, they provide nice web interface, and there are a different way of provisioning those services as well. Okay, so in case of AWS, they provide AWS itself has something called AWS CLI. Okay, using that AWS CLI, it's a command line interface. We can provision in the services. It's not just about provisioning. We can do all the operations that you're doing on the console from the command line. Okay, it's basically internally how it is happening is it is happening through the APIs of AWS. Similarly, AWS has a client library SDK called Boto. Okay, so Python, it's a Python SDK, Boto3. So using Boto3, we can perform everything that is possible through AWS console as well as AWS CLI. Okay, so similarly in Java also they have a Java SDK. So in Ruby also they provide SDKs. So this is like the third option, AWS CLI, or the SDK using Python, Java, Ruby, all those kind of thing. Then another option is using Terraform. Okay, so using basically Terraform is like infrastructure as code. Okay, so instead of provisioning from the console, so we can basically define the infrastructure in the form of a code, and we can manage the infrastructure using Terraform. Okay, so similarly, like Terraform, we can do the same thing using Ansible as well. So these are various ways to provision or manage the infrastructure using code. Okay, so then what is the benefit of provisioning these services through code or defining these services through code when we have very nice console in the web UI? And if you see, in most of the enterprises or in most of the enterprise projects, people provision the services using code instead of provisioning it using the console. There is a reason behind it. Okay, so first reason is, if you are defining or if you are managing it through code, it basically means you have a standard template. Okay, let's say you are a smart engineer, cloud engineer, who knows every bits and pieces of the service, the security aspects of it, the configurations of it. But if you want to replicate your skill set to 10 other people, okay, so it will be difficult. Okay, you cannot ensure the same quality, okay, the same type of the same template across everyone. Okay, so to do this, replicate the same thing, the best way is to use a template instead of manually doing these activities. Okay, so this template means one is you don't have to basically re-execute the same steps again and again manually. Your code will do it. Second thing is, you can ensure your colleagues or the other people who uses the scripts, right, they all follow the same template. You can ensure it is basically uniform. Okay, so they won't miss any configuration, they won't miss any parameter while provisioning this. That means because you have already templatized the entire setup, so you can apply the same templates again and again without any worries. Okay, so that is the advantage of using Terraform or these kind of templates. So here I am explaining the provisioning of a simple EC2 instance using a GitLab pipeline. Okay, so the advantage here is we don't have to give access to the AWS console. So and basically without directly giving the access to AWS console, with limited access, we will be able to enable someone else to provision an EC2 instance very quickly. So I'll explain this as two parts. One is with a configuration, the physical configuration in the Git repository itself, and the second video I'll basically provide it with a way to parameterize, okay, even the configurations as well. So in this video we are going to discuss about these topics. Okay, one is a GitLab pipeline, so Docker executor, so then IAM, So identity and access management. Okay, this is how the access control is managed on the cloud service. Then Python Boto3. Okay, so GitLab pipeline. So we have in there are a series of videos I have published in my channel. So you can go through this videos to get a better understanding of the GitLab pipeline. Docker executor. So this also I have executed. I have already covered some of the examples and the explanation and the configuration of Docker executor. So you can watch the previous videos. I'll provide all the links below this video in the description. IAM I'm not going to cover in detail. It's basically so I'll give you the summary. IAM means identity and access management. So it is just like in AWS. Okay, it's not just in AWS, it is there in all the cloud service providers. So or in all the systems where you have multiple users. So what this will do is it will enable the fine-grained granular access to the services through this IAM. Okay, IAM basically helps us to enable access control in the system. So Python Boto3 is the SDK, AWS SDK for Python. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have a simple small program using Boto3. Okay, so to provision an EC2 instance. Okay, so if you see this is like a simple program and a simple config file. If you see my config file, I have my region. Okay, this is the region where I want to provision this instance name. So this I am not using here, so I'm not using that instance name. So AMI ID. So AMI means Amazon Machine Image. So basically just like our disk ISO. Okay, so this is the AMI, okay, or the image that is used for provisioning this instance. Okay, instance type in EC2 there is something called instance type, basically the type of the instance. Okay, so this defines the size. Like T2 micro means it's a 1 GB RAM, 1 CPU instance. So if you want like T2 small, T2 medium, T2 large, so similarly M series instances, M4, M5. So there are like various instance types in EC2. So we can specify which type you want. Then key pair name, this is the SSH key pair. Okay, this is like the SSH key pair name that we have used to log in. So this is the authentication mechanism to log into this machine. So this AMI ID is basically the AMI of an Ubuntu image. Okay, Ubuntu 22.04. Okay, and I have a key in my Amazon account which is with the name GitLab runner. So I am passing this so that I can log into this machine using this GitLab runner key. Okay, so these are the configurations required for this program. And this program, what I am doing is I am reading the configuration file. app.conf is my config file. I am reading my configuration file using the config parser, which is like a library available in the Python. Then I am basically creating the Boto client. So Boto client, Boto3.client EC2, and region name is basically the region. So this will get the value from the configuration, which is US East, which is the North Virginia region. And then here is where the EC2 instance gets provisioned. So if you see the run instance method in the Boto3, it has several arguments. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate a very simple piece of code which just provisions an instance. So that needs a very basic set of arguments. One is the image ID. So this is basically to pick up which image, instance type, the size, then key name to log in, and min instance, max instance. Basically this is the number of instances. If you are specifying a number, what will happen is that many numbers will be provisioned here. Okay, so this is what we are doing in this program. Okay, so let's go to the GitLab. So in our GitLab, so we have our code located inside code app. Okay, so you can create your structure according to your requirement, and I have my program here. Okay, so this is the same program that we have seen in the PyCharm. Then if you see here, we have the requirements.txt, which needs the Python Boto3 package. Okay, I have specified the package. Then if you see the conf, so here we have the application configuration, which has basically the configurations that we have discussed previously. Okay, so but the problem with this pipeline is this I am hard coding. Basically the configuration it's a static configuration. Okay, so if you want to make any changes, you will have to come manually and make the changes here. So I'll show a separate mechanism to handle this configuration part in the next video. In this video, let's see how we will run with the static configuration. Okay, so if you execute this in a machine, okay, so in this program, if you see in the client, I am not passing the credentials anywhere. Okay, so how we are going to manage is basically I have my, let me explain this. So we have the GitLab code. Okay, this is the GitLab. Okay, and I have my runner. Okay, so this is my runner machine. So I have explained about runner installation, configuration, everything in my previous video. So please watch the previous video to get a better understanding about this runner. So this is the place where the GitLab executes its pipelines and jobs. Okay, so this runner for me in my case, it's an AWS EC2 instance. Okay, so the GitLab code will get, the pipelines will get executed here, and this runner I am going to attach an IAM role. Okay, I'm going to attach an IAM role to this runner, okay, which has access to provision, okay, which has access to provision EC2, okay, EC2 access. So what will happen is, so with this access IAM role, this code will get the privilege to provision the EC2 instance, so that what will happen, this machine can interact with AWS, okay, AWS, and then it can do what, provision EC2 instance. So if I attach a role with more privilege, okay, if I am attaching an IAM role to this instance which has better, I mean, privilege for S3, privilege to EMR, or whatever services you attach, you will be able to do those many operations from this instance. Okay, so you don't have to hard code any credential in that machine. So it's a service to service interaction. So basically it is like, I mean, here the interaction will happen through service to service. So you don't have to pass any credential, this machine will have the privilege. So the only thing is, in production use cases, you ensure you give only very restricted privilege to this instance. So the alternate option of, like, I mean, not providing this, instead, if you are not providing the IAM role, the alternate option is basically passing the access key, secret key, AWS access key, then secret key. Okay, so this mechanism is not like a recommended method, because this is like, I mean, passing the username password. Okay, it's not username password, it's basically some secret credential you are passing into the program. But the problem is, you will have to maintain the secret credential in the program. Okay, so but in case of unavoidable scenarios, okay, what you can do is you can use this mechanism, but ensure you store these credentials in a very secure way. Don't hard code inside the program. Okay, you can either use it as, like, I mean, the GitLab secret, GitLab variables, some protected variables or something, and you can pass it to the program, but never ever hard code this access key, secret key inside the program. Okay, I hope this mechanism is clear. So now what we are going to do is, let's get into the pipeline and see what we are going to do here. So I have already prepared the pipeline. So this pipeline has two stages. One is launch and second is list. So launch, I have two jobs, okay, here. So one is for the launch stage and second is for the list stage. Okay, so for the launch stage, my job is launch instance. The name of my job is launch instance. So here you can see stage is launch. I am using Docker executor. So I have explained about this Docker executor in my previous video. This means, I mean, basically it will pull this Docker image, it will run the pipeline inside this Docker image. Okay, pipeline means the job. Okay, whatever I have passed here, that is going to execute here. Okay, and this Docker is going to run inside my EC2 runner. Okay, so if I have already attached, see, we are going to attach an IAM role to the EC2 instance, so the Docker also will have the same privilege. Okay, so since the container is running from the same machine, so the container also will have similar privileges to provision the instance. Okay, so this is the Docker, and then here we are doing, like, I'm just doing ls, I'm going inside the code app, I'm installing the requirements.txt, then I am basically doing Python launch EC2 instance. Okay, and when manual means this will be like a manual operation, I'll have to trigger it manually, otherwise this job will not start. So then the next job is list instance. In this stage, what I am doing is, this is the second way. So here I am again using Python image. Okay, and before script I am doing the installation of AWS CLI. Okay, this is the command line interface. Okay, just like Boto3. Boto3 is the Python SDK. This is the SDK that is basically for interacting from the command line. So I am installing the command line AWS CLI in this machine, in this image, and then I am doing the command line way of describing it. Okay, so the same I can do it from Python as well, but this is a different way I can do it. So here also, instead of using the Python code to provision this EC2 instance, we can provision the EC2 instance using command line as well. So I just wanted to demonstrate both the approaches. That is why I have used this approach. So I am going to do AWS EC2 describe instances and region US East 1. So this will do what? It will list and describe all the instances in the US East region of this account. And if you see here, needs launch instance means this list instance basically needs, this has a dependency of this. Okay, that means this will run only after the execution of this, so that I cannot run this before completion of this one. When manual means this will basically wait for my manual trigger. Okay, so now this is what we have. So now let's go to the AWS console. So in this we have discussed about AWS IAM role, right? So I have to go to, let's go to the security section. You can see in the security section of this EC2, this is my runner machine. Okay, so I've selected this. There is nothing, no IAM role attached to this machine. So what we need is, we need to attach an IAM role which has access to provision this EC2 instance. Okay, interact with AWS. So what we will do is go to actions, select the instance, go to actions. In the security section, you will see modify IAM role. Click on this modify IAM role. So choose IAM. Here you won't see anything because there are no custom IAM roles created. So what we will do is, there is an option on the right hand side which is create new IAM role. Click on that option. Once you click on that option, so it will come to the IAM page, AWS IAM page. So here what we need is, we need to create a new IAM. Okay, so I'm going to create a new IAM role. Okay, so there are various options. I'm going to create a trusted entity type with AWS service. Okay, so AWS service, then in the use case I'll click on EC2. Okay, and then choose use cases for AWS service. Here also I'll have to search EC2. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I need a role that allows EC2, basically EC2 instances to call AWS services on my behalf. Okay, basically this will allow that EC2 instance to call AWS services. Okay, next is, what is the policy that I need to attach? So in this case, I am going to simply attach the policy which has complete privilege to interact with EC2, but in production scenarios, you will have to restrict it to very specific thing what you need. Okay, so this is like, I mean, right now what I am doing is AWS EC2 full access. I am going to give this policy, but never give this if you don't need this much access. You always restrict it to limited, the very minimal limited requirement. Okay, don't give open access. So for example, for just demonstration purpose, I am going to create this. Okay, so I am giving the role name coder custom role. This is the role name. Okay, and I am going to create this custom role. Let's create the custom role. Okay, the role got created. Okay, you can see this role here and service EC2. Now let's go here. Let's refresh this. Now let's scroll down. You can see the coder custom role listed over here. So I'm going to attach this IAM role to this EC2 instance, which is the runner instance. Okay, so this is the runner machine. So the role is attached. Now our runner machine is capable of interacting with AWS. It has the privilege to interact with AWS on EC2 related services, not on everything. It's just EC2 related services. Now let's go to the pipeline, CI/CD or pipeline. Okay, so on the top right, run pipeline. Okay, now branch is main. Okay, because I have my latest code in my main branch. Run pipeline. Okay, so it needs my confirmation. So because I have added manual option there. Let's see what is there in the launch instance. So it is going to pull the Python base image from Docker registry. So here I mean the image that I have given is from the Docker registry, so it will pull from there. If you want to basically point it to your custom registry, you can do that. Okay, so here the job got succeeded. You can see it is doing list. Okay, then it's going inside code app. It's installing the requirements.txt, which contains the Boto3 package. It installed successfully. Then it executed Python launch ec2.py. So, and after execution, the instance got provisioned. That is why you see a JSON response here. It got provisioned. Okay, so it got successfully provisioned. So the next stage is basically the next stage in this this pipeline is the next job in this pipeline is basically what? It's to list the instance. It is again waiting for me because I have to click on it. I selected manual. I basically added manual. So if I remove the manual, it will automatically execute. Okay. So list instances. Let's go and see what is happening inside. Okay. So here it's again pulling the Python image. So after the Python image pull, it is going to install AWS CLI. Okay. It installed AWS CLI. After that, with the help of IAM, you can see. Okay, it is a long list because it lists every instances. Okay, it installed the AWS CLI. That is what you see here. Pip installed AWS CLI and it installed the dependent packages. After that, AWS describe instances region East US 1. Okay, so it described all the instances and dumped the details in a JSON format. Okay, so this you can see here. And if you want it in a better way, there are ways to query this describe instances. Okay, for example, if you see this describe instances, you can apply filters. Okay, you can apply filters, you can do queries. Okay, these are additional arguments to this describe instance command. Okay, in this way you can get better output from this describe instance instead of this long JSON. So you can modify this. Okay, this is just an example. Okay, so with this, let's check the last part, the physical verification of this one, whether the instance, the instance got provisioned. You can see a new instance got provisioned here, T2 micro. It is in initializing stage. Okay, it is just getting up. Now it is in running state. The instance is up. So in this way, what will happen? So I don't have to give access to the console. Okay, I don't have to give access to the console. I can just give access to this Git pipeline and I can configure everything in my template. In my case, the template is a program. Okay, I can configure everything in the template and maybe I can give access to the cloud team. They can just provision the instance by modifying the parameters. Okay, so in this way, this is a simple example. So in the coming videos, I'll show this. I'll demonstrate the same through Terraform. Okay, and in the next video, I'll again show like how to basically parameterize this one. Okay, if you see in this program, we have our parameters hardcoded in a configuration file. It's a static configuration file. In the next video, I'll show you how to basically make it like something that we can pass it at the runtime. Okay, at the runtime, how can we pass the parameters and provision this instance? So which will make this pipeline more powerful than what we have right now. I hope this video is useful for you. So subscribe to this channel for more videos, like more will be coming to this one. If you have any questions, please comment below the video. I'll definitely respond back to you. Thank you very much for watching this video. Have a nice day.